So today we will see about the Z transforms. So the main motivation behind studying the Z transform along with the Fourier transform, what we had seen in the last couple of classes, that we want to introduce the generalization in the sense that Fourier transform does not converge for all sequences. So there were a couple of sequences which could not converge as n tends to infinity. So for those sequences, we can see how to compute the Z transforms. So it encompasses a broader class of signals basically. So let's recall the Fourier transform, what how we have computed. So for the given x of n sequence, we represented x of e to the power j omega as the summation from minus infinity to infinity x of n e to the power minus j omega n. Okay. Now for Z transform, we use the variable z, which becomes equal to for n minus infinity to infinity x of n z to the power minus n, right? Where z is your continuous complex variable. Okay. So we shall see that if the sequence does not converge, then how we can compute the frequency domain representation for those sequences. For the denotation purposes, we shall use z of n. We will use this operator z when we apply onto this sequence x of n, then we call it x of z. Okay, so this is how we would represent. Alternatively, as we had seen earlier for the Fourier transform, so x of n, when I take the z transform both sides, the z transform of the sequence x of n and the inverse transform of this x of z, we will get x of n. Okay, so here what you have seen, that most of the time we call it the bilateral Z transform, because we are taking the this we are considering the sequence for n minus infinity to infinity, while when we use this formula where we have n0 to infinity for x of n z to the power minus n, we call it unilateral Z transform, where n is varying from 0 to infinity. So it is straightforward to see that the bilateral transform or the bilateral Z transform become equal to unilateral Z transform if you have x of n is equal to 0 for n less than 0, right? Now what is the relationship between the Z transform and the Fourier transform? So seeing these two formulas, you can see that if I substitute Z as e to the power j omega, then you will have Z transform equal to your Fourier transform, right? With mod of Z equal to 1. So let's see this. So let's represent your Z, because Z is a complex variable, so I can represent it in the polar coordinates as r times e to the power j omega, where r is the magnitude of the complex variable Z and e to the power j omega denotes the angle on the Z plane, right? So let's represent this Z is equal to r e to the power j omega. Then substituting in the above formula, we would have summation n minus infinity to infinity x of n. Now I substitute z as r e to the power j omega to the power minus n, right? Which I can write or simplify it as minus infinity to infinity x of n. I take this, I combine this r to the power minus n to this part and take power minus j omega. So this equation shows that it can be interpreted as you are computing the Fourier transform of the sequence given by x of n r to the power minus n. right? Because this sequence is now changed to this one, and the remaining part is what you had seen earlier for computing the Fourier transform. Right? And for r is equal to 1, it shows that the z transform is equivalent to your Fourier transform when you substitute r is equal to 1 here. So it is like computing the Fourier transform of x of n. So if we see, or if we try to visualize on the complex plane, let's say we have the real part of z, the imaginary part of z, and this is we have the z plane. So if we denote a unit circle where which is a unit circle meaning to say the circle of radius 1, okay, and this is the omega, and any point on this curve, on this circle, we denote it as z is equal to e to the power j omega, because you have r is equal to 1. And so omega denotes the rotation of that point of some complex variable onto the z plane. So if we evaluate this x of z at points on this unit circle in the z plane, beginning at, let's say the first case is z is equal to 1, which means that is we have omega is equal to 0 through z is equal to j, which is equivalent to saying that your omega is equal to pi, to the point z is equal to -1. So I'm making the rotation from 1 to -1 going through this z is equal to j. So this is equivalent to your omega, again equal to pi. So here we have this pi by 2, excuse me, right? So z is equal to j, which is equivalent to saying that you have omega is equal to pi by 2. So in this way we can obtain the Fourier transform for omega varying between 0 to pi. Okay, so that we had seen that the power series representing the Fourier transform does not converge for all sequences. And this was the main convergence analysis we did while computing the Fourier transform. Similarly, your Z transform does not converge for all sequences or for all values of Z. So now we are interested in that for any given sequence, the set of values of Z for which the Z transform power series converges, and that region in which the power series converges, we call it the region of convergence, or the ROC of the Z transform. So in the Fourier transform, we had not seen this explicitly, because if the sequence converges, then we directly computed its Fourier transform. But in Z transform also, likewise, we will see in a couple of examples that it may not converge, but it will converge only in a specific region, what we call the region of convergence. So recall the sufficient condition what we had seen earlier, that your x r e to the power j omega should be less than or equal to having this summation n of the sequence x of n r to the power minus n, because now we are interpreting it as computing the Fourier transform of this sequence. Okay, so the sufficient condition what we had seen earlier in the for the convergence of Fourier transform, it should be finite. So now it is possible for the Z transform to converge, even if the Fourier transform for r is equal to 1 does not converge, right? We had seen one example, x of n is equal to u of n, right? In the last class we had seen that this sequence does not converge, right? So here what we want, that r raised to the power minus n u of n is absolutely summable if you have r greater than equal to 1. So for this example, you will get the ROC defined as R, which is equal to mod of Z greater than 1. So for this, Z transform exists. So only for this ROC, where you have mod of Z greater than 1, your Z transform will exist. Another important point is that if ROC includes the unit circle, then for mod Z is equal to 1, of course, the Z transform will converge. Now equivalently, the Fourier transform of the sequence also converges. So in this particular ROC, right, in this particular ROC, the unit circle is not included. So the Fourier transform won't exist. The Fourier transform of the sequence won't converge. But if you have certain region of convergence, let's say this region on the complex on the Z plane, and this is the unit circle, let's say. Okay, now if the unit circle, this is the unit circle, and this is your ROC for some sequence. So we see that the unit circle is included in the ROC, and we can compute the Fourier transform of that sequence also. So conversely, if the ROC does not include the unit circle, then Fourier transform does not converge absolutely. Right? The Fourier transform won't converge absolutely. This is what we had seen in one of the example. So for the uniform convergence of the Z transform, we require absolute summability of exponentially weighted sequence. So exponentially weighted sequence in the sense this r to the power n. So we also call this that this sequence x of n is exponentially weighted by this r to the power minus n. So it should be absolutely summable. Now let's see some example as x1 of n sine omega cn by pi n for n minus infinity to infinity, and let's say you have x2 of n cos omega naught and n minus infinity again infinity. So you will notice that both these sequences are not absolutely summable. Both sequences are not absolutely summable. And the interesting point here to see that neither of these sequence, even if you multiply it by r to the power minus n, would be absolutely summable for any value of r. It won't be. So neither of them has a Z transform that converges absolutely for any Z. So you cannot compute the Z transform. But you will notice that x of n is of finite energy. Although it does not converge or it does not absolutely summable, but it is square summable, meaning to say that it has finite energy. So what do we mean that square summable as? That n for minus infinity to infinity, we have mod of xn square is finite. So you can check for these two sequences that they are square summable. So in that case, when you have the finite energy, the Fourier transform converges in the mean square sense to a discontinuous periodic function. Right? So what does it mean, the mean square convergence? So now we shall see the mean square convergence. say we are given x of e to the power j omega, which we have seen in minus infinity to infinity x of n e to the power minus j omega n. Now we shall define some x of xm of e to the power j omega, where now n is varying from minus m to m. Okay, so mean square convergence follows that we are interested in this formula. So this is what we want now, that the difference, the square difference of x and xm, as m tends to infinity, the integral from minus infinity to infinity over omega should be equal to 0. So what does this mean? That the error term, this is the error term inside, that is x e to the power j omega minus xm e to the power j omega. So this error term may not approach to 0 at each value of omega as m tends to infinity, but the total energy in the error does. Okay, so let's see one example that how we can analyze this. Let's say you are given the h of g omega as 1 and 0 for 1 for mod omega less than omega c and omega c greater than or equal to pi. Okay, that it is obvious the periodicity of 2 pi. So some of you may notice that this is the frequency domain representation of a low pass filter, right? But we shall come to this aspect later on. Let's see that how we compute the h of n. So if I compute h of n in the time domain, we use the formula of minus omega c to omega c e to the power j omega n d omega, right? Because only within this limit you have the value 1, otherwise it is 0. So this can be simplified as 2 pi j n j omega c n minus e to the power minus j omega c n, which becomes equal to the sin c function sin omega c n divided by pi n. T2n, right? Notice that this frequency domain representation of this sin c function is discontinuous at omega is equal to omega c. So the sequence value approaches 0 as at n tends to infinity, but only as 1 by n, because like I said that h of e to the power j omega is discontinuous at omega is equal to omega c. So if I compute directly through the formula, minus infinity to infinity sin omega c n divided by pi n e to the power minus j omega n, you will notice that this does not converge uniformly for all values of omega. But we shall see now how we can ensure the mean convergence using that above formula. So let's see, let's denote h m of e to the power j omega as n ranging from minus m to n for sin omega c n divided by pi n minus j omega n. Okay. So we shall see numerically that what does it mean. Yes, just a second. Okay, so here is the figure. If we compute numerically for increasing value of m, so we see that when you have m is equal to 1, this is how your hm e to the power j omega looks like, because it's a continuous function, this one. But this is a discontinuous function at omega is equal to omega c, how we have defined initially. Now if I keep increasing the value of m, you see that this curve, the continuous curve, starts converging to the discontinuous curve. And for m is equal to 19, you see some oscillations only at the point of discontinuity. Otherwise, it is quite capture the actual behavior. Now, if you increase for higher values of m, this part will become smooth, while here you will have some oscillation for higher values of m. So, it is also called the Gibbs phenomena, because when you compute using this formula, it is supposed to be a continuous function of frequency. But since we saw that if I define my h of e to the power j omega by this discontinuous function, then it gives me this one. Okay? This is the Gibbs phenomenon, and we have the mean. This sequence is converging in the mean square sense. Okay. So what it says, the Gibbs phenomena, that as you have the limit m tends to infinity for minus pi to pi, and you have h e to the power j omega minus hm e to the power j omega square d omega is equal to 0. So that these two functions differs only at the point of discontinuity, that is at omega is equal to omega c as m tends to infinity. So the take away message from this analysis, that you should never think or see that the Fourier transform as being the Z transform evaluated on the unit circle, because earlier we started this discussion that if the region of convergence includes the unit circle, then for those sequences you can compute both the Z transform and the Fourier transform. But you should not think, because here you can, the Z transform does not exist, but still you are able to compute the Fourier transform in this sense. Okay, so we can stop here today, and we shall then discuss about the Z transform in much more detail in the next class. Okay.